Welcome into Motorsports Monday. The end of summer means that temperatures are cooling down, but the NASCAR action is only heating up. One final race in the regular season before the playoffs, and what better place to go to than the World Center of Racing. Daytona International Speedway, the host for the Coke Zero Sugar 400, with one final spot in the playoffs up for grabs. Stage 2 was as intense as it gets before, on the final lap of the stage, Ryan Blaney gets hooked by Ty Gibbs and slams into the outside wall. Blaney was obviously shaken up, but was able to climb out of the car under his own power. This wreck took out last year's winner, Austin Dillon, and multiple other drivers looking for their spot in the playoffs. Brad Keselowski does win the stage, giving him a much-needed bonus point for the playoffs. In the final stage now, and here's one of the more violent crashes you will ever see in NASCAR. Ryan Preece gets airborne, barrel rolling over 10 times before he finally lands on all fours, but the car is torn to shreds. Preece was clipped in the middle of the backstretch, and that sent him racing uncontrollably towards the grass in the infield. Watch the slow-mo replay. As soon as the car hits the grass, it begins to flip, and it was on from there. Thankfully, Preece was able to get out of the car with help from the AMR safety team. He did get transported to a local hospital where he stayed overnight, but thankfully he was released on Sunday morning. Following this wreck, there's a green-white checkered finish to decide the final spot in the playoffs, with playoff hopefuls Chase Elliott and Eric Almirola near the front. But in the end, the RFK team strikes once again. Chris Buescher, with a push from his boss, Brad Keselowski, gets the win, his third win in the last 5 races, and he has quickly become one of the favorites to win the championship. I will say this race at the new date always delivers. There's not a better track to end the regular season. NASCAR moved the race from the traditional date of 4th of July weekend a few years ago, and it's delivered in a big way ever since then. Here's a look at the top 5 from this one. Behind the Roush Fenway Keselowski drivers, Eric Almirola finished 3rd, followed by Chase Elliott in 4th. Both drivers needed a win to get in the playoffs, but were unable to do so. And Joey Logano also rounds out the top 5 there in 5th. Speaking of the playoffs, here's a look at the playoff standings as NASCAR heads to Darlington for the Southern 500 to kick off the first round of the playoffs. William Byron and regular season points leader Martin Truex Jr. are the first and second place drivers there with 36 playoff points to begin the round. Bubba Wallace was able to point his way into the playoffs after the race there on Saturday, his first career trip to those playoffs. Team owner Michael Jordan was at the race Saturday night to congratulate him. The first round of the races consists of Darlington next week, Kansas, with the elimination race set for the night race at Bristol, which of course several people from this area will likely be attending. To local racing now, Lake Cumberland Speedway had the track's biggest race ever this past Saturday in the 12th annual Harold Hardgrove Memorial. Northern Kentucky's own Josh Rice gets the win and the over $15,000 purse. Rice is someone who's been on a tear this summer, winning yet another race at Lake Cumberland Speedway. Skylar Marlar and Greg Johnson finished 2nd and 3rd. Rod Conley and Trip Gerald round out the top 5. A lot of local racing for Labor Day weekend as well. Lake Cumberland Speedway, Thunder Mountain Speedway, Rock Castle Speedway, and Mudlick Valley Raceway are all in action. We'll, of course, have some highlights from those, plus a look at the NASCAR race at Darlington for the Southern 500. All that and more coming up next week in Motorsports Monday.